Welcome to the podcast where we bring you insightful stories from the world of property investment and development. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Adam, the Managing Director of Adpen and Liberty Blue. Adpen is a leading investment firm specialising in property development with over 200 million in projects underway. On the other hand, Liberty Blue is an educational platform that empowers individuals to learn about property development and investing in the industry. Adam's success is remarkable, having achieved so much in the field of property investment by the age of 30. He is a true inspiration to anyone who wants to make a difference in the world of investment and property. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready to learn from one of the most successful young entrepreneurs of our time. Let's begin.
Welcome to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Domovsky. With over 2 decades of property investing, Dragan is a qualified property investment advisor and buyer's agent. We're committed to the education of both first-time and seasoned investors in property investment and wealth creation. The Passive with Property podcast is brought to you by the Buyers Agency Australia.
Welcome, Adam Pennisi. Thanks for coming on to Passive with Property. How are you today?
Going great. Thanks for having me, Dragan.
Thanks for coming on. Thank you very much. So, Adam, what we're going to go through today is pretty much tell our audience how you started in the journey you are at the moment, and starting from, tell me about your childhood.
Oh, yes. Okay. Starting way back at childhood.
Yeah.
So just to put it in context, I don't know what the listeners know about me before now. So just to put it in context as to now, I've got 8-9 projects on the go, a couple $100 million in end value in property projects. And I started that when I was 22. I'm now 34-ish, just turned 35. So obviously I didn't start from where I am now. So I grew up with parents that had us really young. So young parents, travelled around a lot and grew up in mostly mining towns. And then when I finished school, I wanted to move to the big city. I didn't. I stayed local, which was silly. But So I grew up in a place called Rockhampton for the second half of my schooling life. And then as soon as I finished university in Rockhampton, I moved out and just wanted to experience something different. I think I'd been to Brisbane once, so I moved to Brisbane and thought, this is the big city now. I've made it, and here I am. Like at the time, Brisbane is like a tiny city, so I hadn't done that much travelling other than a little bit around Australia.
Okay,
up until that point. So when everyone else was going overseas, I was knuckling down and normally studying or doing other stuff like sports. So we didn't do much travel. It wasn't until I really finished, even many years after university, I didn't really travel that much. Just head down, bum up, working hard, because I wanted to travel in luxury afterwards, which I still need to do more of. But
fair enough.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so what was it like growing up in Rockhampton? I mean, a small town, I guess, and you said your father was in mining, is that right?
Yeah, so he was at that point in time. So prior to that, I was born with me and Billy Slater, born in Innisfail. That'll be my claim, if you know who Billy Slater is. You would, you and your son.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So family was originally, Cairns, Innisfail, second generation cane farmers on both sides of my family.
Okay, yeah.
Small town was pretty much what we were used to.
Awesome.
And Rockhampton was like the bigger town, especially compared to like Innisfail at least. Cairns not so much, but it was good fun. You walk up the street and know most people, which was good at times.
Yep.
not so good if you're out on the town and you see people you don't want to see. But I think looking back, it was actually quite good because you used to see friends, when you're just walking around. You don't get that as much in cities. In Brisbane, I seem to see a lot of people around that I know. And I don't know that many people really in Brisbane. So, small towns are good.
Okay. So you left high school, and what did you do from there?
I went and did an engineering degree.
Okay. Excellent. What kind of engineering?
just civil engineering, so roads, bridges.
Mm-hmm.
So the story behind that was when I was 5 or as young as I can remember, I either wanted to be a pilot or I wanted to be an architect. They were the two. And I literally stuck with those like throughout since I was 5, throughout until I was 17. And it was actually 1 week before we picked our university degrees, I actually did more investigation as to what an architect did, because I thought they did the design and all like the maths calculations behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 week out from applying for all the universities, I actually changed my application from architecture to engineering.
Wow.
The reason I dropped the pilot thing was I looked at all the size of the planes, and I'm 6'4",
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't fit in any of the cool fighter jets. So I'm like, I'm not flying a slow ass helicopter in a battleground that's going to get shot down. So,
I know
that was my reasoning not to be a pilot.
I know the feeling. I'm 6'4" myself, so I know how it is.
Yeah. It's just the right height to fit into supercars or aeroplane seats, or economy at least.
Yeah.
And beds.
Yeah.
Any longer, you start to hang off the end of the bed.
Yeah.
Fighter planes, I think the limit was about 6'1" or 6'2" for a lot of those fighter planes. So.
Oh, right. Okay. So
there you go.
Awesome. Okay. Fantastic.
No fighter pilot experience for me, or career, thankfully. I'm thankful I didn't pick that path.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So, Adam, you finished university. What did you do from there?
Finished uni, did really well, first class honours. We had a really competitive cohort.
Mm-hmm.
So we had literally some of the smartest guys in the state in my course.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just saying this to someone the other day, out of 12 people that finished, which seems crazy, like to have 12 people graduate from civil engineering in 1 year. So out of 12 of us, there was probably 6 or 7 that all got first class honours.
Oh, wow.
We were extremely competitive, extremely smart year. And like the other, there was probably 1 or 2 that got passes, and the other few got second class honours.
Okay. Fantastic.
So we did really well. We all, were pretty competitive, worked pretty hard through uni. And then when I got out, I'm like, woohoo, now it's time to party. Like now I've just ticked off. And it's kind of like when you set a goal, like that was my goal from when I was 5 years old. I didn't know that it was engineering, but that was like a 5-year-old completing like the dream that you had 20 years later. So I was like, massive tick. What's next? So I was like, let's go party, because I never did that that much. So, move to Brisbane, went to Fridays on a Friday night. I thought that was like the life. Going out to Fridays. Not that we had, we had nightclubs in Rockhampton, but not quite the same caliber of people. No offense to people at party in Rockhampton. But yeah, just a different world that I hadn't experienced before, because it had always been head down, bum up, or, sports every other weekend, or I played piano for 10 years. I used to do 4 hours of practice every day for a period of time.
Wow.
On that, I wish I could play now, but I sort of got over that. But anyway. So after that, I was like, all right, that's done. Now let's make money.
That's it. So, okay, fantastic.
Focus. Let's make money and let's go and have a good time on a Friday night at Fridays.
There you go. So you got out of university, and how old were you then when you first started work?
22, I think.
22.
Yeah.
And your first job?
Well, not quite. First job, I got fired. Actually, I got fired from a couple of jobs.
And it puts you to the path of being your own boss. I mean, that's what it was like for me at the beginning. I've dabbled in many jobs, and then, you realize that you just don't get along when he's telling you what to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much same. Yeah. I shouldn't say that. It's more so I was being told what to do by people that were incompetent, or, just because they had 10 years of experience, they were any smarter, or, I did question a lot of things that we did in the construction company.
Mm-hmm.
which people did not appreciate, especially guys that had been there for 30 years. They didn't appreciate a 22-year-old questioning them and then being right about stuff, or, them just proving a point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got fired I worked at Hungry Jack's I lasted there for a month when I was at university. I worked at a computer store. I worked at IGA. I think each of those jobs, I was there for about a month.
Okay.
So I was like, this working thing sucks. But I did work I actually got a scholarship into university.
Mm-hmm.
And the company I got a scholarship with, they were the Queensland's largest private civil contractor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I did work placements with them, so paid work placements. So I was fortunate enough that when I wasn't at university, I was working for them. So by the time I finished, I'd spent 2 years working for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which was good fun, but similar sort of thing. By the time it got to sort of the 6 to 8 months which was the stint I'd normally work, I'd do 6 to 8 months and then go back to uni. Yep. I kind of got a bit over it by that point. So I kind of already knew, even before I finished, I was like, I have to work for myself. Like, I can't work for anyone else.
Yeah. No, I know what it's like. So Adam, from there, what did you do? Where did you go? Which direction did you take?
I went and just looked for education, really.
Yep.
Straight out of uni as a young kid. And I was like, I went to this, promotion seminar about property, and, the course was $6,000 or $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, cool, that's what I'm doing. And it was property development. So I'm like, cool, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make $100,000 this year. I was getting paid 60 in my job. So my target was, I'm going to make $100,000. I'm doing this course, and that's that. So that's literally what I set out to do, make $100,000 in the first year. I didn't hit it. I didn't hit it in the second year either, but sort of 2.5 years in, I'd finished my first project, a couple of $100,000 in the bank.
Awesome.
And then, I just did other smaller projects, and then was rolling sort of anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 per project, and I'd normally have a couple on the go.
While you're still working full time, is that correct?
Yeah, and doing crazy hours, like 60 to 80 hours a week in engineering, and doing normally 2 or 3 projects on the side.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Looking back, I didn't need to work that hard. I could have worked a lot smarter, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally learning, from scratch, and honestly, the seminars that I did, as good as they were, they gave me the ideas. They didn't show me, do this, then do that. They were kind of like really airy-fairy sort of stuff. Like, it was not the exact roadmap. So I was out there looking at, I did waste, in hindsight, I did waste a lot of time doing a whole lot of stuff that I could fast track if I had somebody who actually was teaching me the right way, I suppose.
Fair enough.
And I still got there.
There you go. That's right. So Adam, when did it come that time where you said, okay, now I'm going to go out on my own and do this full time and be my own boss?
That was, I think it was 4 years after I graduated.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And at that time, I think I just sold out of a couple of projects. I had, a few years in the bank of savings.
Mm-hmm.
And I just bought another business, which was a body corporate business, which I just sold. So I just bought that as well. And I had enough.
Had enough. Okay.
I really had enough. I was working literally 80 hours a week in my job, and then probably doing close to 20 on top. So I was literally 100 hours a week.
Wow.
Of actual work. And the only way to actually work 100 hours a week, because I've heard other people say, I'll work 100 hours a week. I'm like, bullshit. Do you have a chef? Like, literally, do you have a chef? Do you have a maid? And, what's your commute to work? Because you literally can't, unless you don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You physically can't do that. So yeah, my 100 hours was, as a single guy, and working in a mine site where I was 5 minutes drive from, or 10 minutes drive.
Yeah.
I have a car, and literally I'd be 7 hours sleep a night, and every other hour, the chef at the camp was cooking the food. I'd have to do my own washing every so often, but that was just work clothes, so you don't need to iron. You barely need to.
Yep. Fantastic. So, Adam, the first projects you started with, what did they look like? Can you just give me an idea of, how complex were they?
The first one was way too complex. It was on the side of a hill, 3-level multi-unit or multi-townhouse. So that one I definitely wouldn't advise people to tackle. Definitely not the first one.
So was that a reno or was that a build?
It was both. So there were 2 houses to renovate. So I bought 2 existing houses and then split off the backyard. There were 3 properties to be built in the back, so 3 by 3 levels, and the car garage on 2 of them was in the middle level. So not an easy building, and it was basically off the side of a hill. So there were complexities around the build with that. And then the renovations, they were dig out and then put garages underneath the existing houses.
Amazing. So this was your first project?
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
Awesome. Give us an idea on the purchase, what you spent on it, and then at the end, what did you sell it for?
Bought it for 1.1.
Yep.
So I was 22. Did this program. 3 months later, I buy this property for just over $1 million. I got the vendor, the owner of the property, to leave in $300,000. So he basically put in the deposit.
Yep.
And then I had another investor put up the other $300,000. And then so I spent the first $300,000 on renovating the first couple of homes, then getting it revalued. Plus we also split the title. So split the title, added value, and then sold off one of the houses, rolled that capital in to do the build. And look, I can't remember all the costs because it was a long time ago.
Yep.
But at the end, there was a couple of $100,000 left over, which for the size of the project, it wasn't much really. Like, it was a good lesson learned. And admittedly, it was in a flat market. So really, really flat market in Brisbane in 2011. I started that project and I was out by 2013.
Okay.
And that was just when the market, so I literally got out at the worst time because then the market exploded from 2013 to 16.
Okay.
Not as good as Sydney, but one of those properties resold within 12 months after I sold it for an extra 100,000, I think it was.
Okay.
So I probably could have cleaned up, could have made an extra 500. There were 5 properties, could have made an extra 500,000.
Yeah. If you knew, right?
Well, yeah, I did want to keep some of them, and I actually contemplated keeping a couple, and then I just decided, I'm just going to sell them and I'll do another project. But yeah, in hindsight, I should have really just kept at least a couple of them, rolled the equity, and held them. And at the time, they were positively geared, or at least neutral. So they would have been fantastic investment properties. I should have lesson learned, one that I won't repeat. In that, you're better off to keep some of the properties.
So let me move on to the next one. Your project that you would say that you did the best out of, what would that be? Which one would that be?
You're talking about to date?
To date, yes.
Project that I've done the best out of?
Made the most out of in the shortest possible.
Yeah, it's in the short space of time. Probably it'd be the one I've just finished to date. There's some other ones that are in the wings that'll probably do better, or give or take as a percentage, but in terms of monetary wise, they'll do better. But yeah, the best one to date, which I'm in the process of just transacting the last, I think I'm down to 9 to go, 9 to sell. Bought it in the middle of COVID. I actually bought it before COVID so COVID was 2020, so late 2019, contracted, put the property under contract, settled it in the middle of COVID, and that was a $4 million purchase, 42 blocks of land. At the time, they were averaging sort of 330 to 350 in terms of sales. So the project showed something like 30% margin or 33% margin, something like that, when I bought it, which is pretty good. I think it was 3 mil, something around that, something around 3 million profit.
Okay.
When I started. which is all right for a modest project. So yeah, the plan was to finish that in, I don't know, 2 years or 2.5 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, it's 2019, so it's nearly 3 years later. There's been a lot of rain delays and a few COVID delays.
Yeah.
So it'll be the better part of 3.5 years by the time it's all said and done. In a normal market, it probably would have been 12 months faster. So it probably would have been 2.5 years, which was originally what I was anticipating. So yeah, those blocks, what was selling for $350 is now selling for $550.
That's fantastic.
Or something like that. So I didn't transact all of those blocks at $550. I mean, that would have been fantastic. 40 times an extra $200,000 a block. There was an extra 12 months of holding costs. I copped some of the COVID price increases with construction. I did cop a bit of that, and I copped a lot, like a huge amount of wet weather. We had 6 or 7 months of delays, and that was just on one stage. So overall, I probably nearly had 12 months of rain delays on construction.
Are you stressed out not knowing where to find distressed, off-market, high cash flow properties in high growth areas? What about the best strategy to build a wealth-generating portfolio? Look no further. Dragan Domovsky can help. With 20 years of experience as a property investor, Dragan is a qualified property investment advisor and expert buyer's agent, so he knows how to find the best deals and negotiate for his clients. And right now, he's offering a free 45-minute strategy session to get you started, normally worth $500. Text the code PWP along with your name and email address to 0405 105 074 now to take advantage of this offer. Don't wait. Take control of your financial future today. That number again, 0405 105 074. You're listening to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Domovsky. To ensure you don't miss out on valuable investing tips and information, subscribe today.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
12 months rain delay.
On what was ultimately an 8-month job. It would have been almost 12 months. Let's call it 8 months worth of work and probably 8 months of rain delays at least.
That would have pissed you off.
There's nothing you do.
Right.
Rains and so people don't actually realize that. And I did have a few buyers that were really annoyed because the project wasn't getting delivered on time and there were some sunset clauses that lapsed. I ended up offering a lot of those buyers the properties at a discount. I didn't offer it at the same price because at the time it ended up being below cost. A lot of those properties that I'd sold just because of the cost increase. So look, that has been the best one. The forecast was originally $3 million, and we've done a fair bit better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say how much better. I won't count my chickens because I still am transacting the last few blocks. Mm-hmm. So but there has been, overall, I think we've probably averaged $450 a block, maybe 500. So there's, an extra $4 million in uplift in value.
Awesome. That's great.
So that's been the best one. So it's not the 3 million plus the 4. It's not quite that good, but
still good enough.
It did okay. So I was pretty happy about that. Especially some of my other projects that have taken longer. That will end up being more lucrative, but they've taken longer and there's a lot more to do. It's been a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So what's next? What's in the pipeline?
To deliver or
to any sort of upcoming projects?
Delivery, hopefully this year. I'll have a couple of childcare, swim school. What else is there? And then another commercial development that'll just be underway, earthworks. So it should be 4. And another 10 houses. So I'm expecting to have 4 under construction this year. Mm-hmm. And then next year will be probably even more crazy. So having 4 under construction is a fairly big feat. And then there's another couple that are getting finished, another couple of houses. So having 4 under construction at any one time is a pretty reasonable fee. And then next year we'll probably roll into probably having 6 under construction, maybe something like that.
Yep. Okay, fantastic.
We're out hunting for more.
Awesome. That's great, mate. So, aside from your projects that you're doing, you've got an educational project, I guess, let's call it, educational arm to what you're doing. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, this has a bit of history to it. 5 years ago, I actually went to launch a development education program. And it was off the back of having some clients that wanted to know more about the process and just seeing the opportunity that people aren't really that educated in the development space.
Yep.
There's just a lot of misinformation out there, or people claiming to be doing developments. But when you do it at scale, the rules change a lot. Versus, there's a lot of people that have done, smaller developments, which is fine. And there's a way to do those. But I think having gone from doing smaller developments and then now doing, $50 million developments in one, the rules change a lot. Like not just a little bit, but a lot. So a lot of people want to go from that one, that 2 or 3 lot, and they want to jump to doing bigger stuff. And for a lot of people, it's not the right move. You're better to have, a few of those smaller developments rather than trying to go big. So I just wanted to give people the right education to understand the process.
Okay. Yeah.
For one, even if they didn't want to do the development, just to understand the process that we go through from if they come in as an investor. But then, I have a lot of investors that do their own developments, both big and small. Some of my investors, or one of them in particular, is doing 100 units, and he's about to start another 70 or 80 units next year. So, he's got some pretty sizable projects, and I could really help him with, the process that he goes through at the moment. So there's guys like that at the big end of town, but then there's also all these guys, doing 1 into 2s or 1 into 3s, where I think they could really use some of my knowledge to help them make more money or be more selective in what they buy.
Okay.
Plus also holding the property as well. So 5 years ago, I went to launch a course. I decided not to. And then a couple of years ago, I just saw too many people getting burned by different people, different projects, buying the wrong property. So just over a year ago, I ended up launching the program. And since then we've got a few students on board that I mentor. We'll probably have a handful of those do $500,000 to $1 million in a year, which is pretty incredible. We've got guys, anything from people that are literally buying their first property like me, up to guys that have done a few renovations before, people that have owned a few properties and they just kind of want to know what's next.
Okay.
Or do they actually want to go in the development space, or do they want to just stick to buying more properties? So
sure.
Not any one answer is right. I think you just got to make the decision. If you're going to go into development, you just need to go in eyes open, but realizing that it's an active strategy. You actually have to do some work.
Yeah.
We do make people commit time to us before they sign up. So they do have to commit a minimum time to us to do the program. And then, so that's on the development side of things. And then I've just launched a real estate accumulator program, which is basically for those guys that don't want to do development, because there is still lots of money to be made in property, as you know. If you buy the right property in the right location, buy it on the market value, you can still make heaps of money. You don't have to do the development. And you don't have to go through the rigorous process necessarily. In saying that, though, I still think that every passive investor should understand the development process.
I agree. I totally think so. So let me go back with the first education. So what was the name of that one?
So that program is called Develop It.
Okay.
So Develop It, IT.
Okay, develop.
Like do it, like Nike, but it's Develop It.
So pretty much any listener out there that has zero knowledge or very little knowledge of how to, let's just say, a development, a duplex, purchasing a block of land or a knockdown, and they want to set up a duplex, you can guide them, you can educate them on where to purchase, what to purchase, all the way to the finished product.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's 7 stages that I teach. They're, my 7 stages. Somebody else might have 9, 10, whatever. I've condensed it to 7, make it easy.
Yep.
But yeah, you've got to run through those 7 stages in property development. You've at least got to know about them. And I feel like most of the people that try development probably know about 1 or 2 of them, and then they stuff up the rest. Or they don't know them properly. Well, they don't know the order that they should be done in.
Give us an idea. Tell us the order just very quickly in point form from stage 1 to 7.
Yeah. Okay. So stage 1 is the buying.
Yep.
So, getting a property, 1, under market value, because if you don't buy under market value, you're already underwater by the time you settle the property, assuming you settle. As part of stage 1, there is a lot of foundation work that I do in the program, like setting up the right structuring in terms of accounting structures.
Okay. Yeah.
So making sure your structures are right, because if they're not, it could cost you, or it does cost you, a lot of money in tax, but then also in other aspects like finance. So 1 is the buying, the second one is the planning, getting the planning right. The third one, I might even have to refer back to my notes. The third one is the approval. Sorry. The second one is the due diligence. The third one is getting the approval. The fourth one is the...
I'm testing here, aren't I?
Yeah, you are, because I haven't had to recite them for a while. It just flows. Fourth one is sales and marketing. Fifth one is finance. Sixth one is construction. And then 7th is completion. There you go. I didn't know
that. Awesome. Good man.
Can we edit that bit out?
Sure.
Well, maybe I should cut them down into like 3.
That's okay.
Make life easier. So yeah, when you go through, you buy under market value, you then add value through the approval process.
Yeah.
But you got to do the due diligence before you even buy the property, and then the sales, and then the finance. So you got to know that you're actually going to sell the product. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is you want to know what the financing looks like. And this, you basically got to run through all of the 7 stages, and then go back to number 1 and then buy.
Yeah.
So you've got to know the whole cycle, and basically the due diligence is ultimately based off the entire cycle. So you basically run through the whole thing, make sure you understand the whole process, and then you go back to the buying, because you always think with the end in mind.
Okay.
So you always start off and know what it's going to look like at the end. You don't start off and then try and guess work it through like a lot of people do.
Yes. So I've seen a lot of that, and that's usually where they fail.
Yeah, because people will buy a property, and then after they've bought it, they go, oh, this is a development site. Oh, what can I develop? Or they'll buy a property and go, oh, this has got development potential. What can I explore, in the development potential? And they've already bought the property. So there's only one step you're 100% in control of, and that's the buying.
Yep.
After that, you're at the effect of someone else or something else. So, you're at the effect of the market. You're at the effect of council, even with approvals. Not every approval no approval is guaranteed, really. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, council makes their own rules sometimes. So, buying is the only stage you're in control of. So if you're not buying under market value, or not putting the property under option to de-risk it, then that just means controlling the property but not actually settling on it, not owning it.
Yeah. Look, a lot of the time when you purchase the property on the price that you purchase it on is where you make a good chunk of the money, just from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You both know that. So, okay. So tell me about your second, the next course after that. Is that also called Develop It?
Yeah, so that's the accumulator, so real estate accumulator.
Yep.
And so I've worked backwards. So I've gone, hey, let's teach people how to do development, same as what I'm doing, mm-hmm. Which is more of an advanced course, but I have tailored it to, beginners as well. We do have some beginners in there. And then, from that, development is a really good strategy. And like I said, in my first development I did, I wish I had kept a couple because I actually would have made more money in just holding the properties long term.
Yeah.
So, rewind back into like a more entry level is accumulator, but it's really complementary to doing development. Because I think what a lot of developers get wrong is they sell all of their stuff and then they realize the cash and then they go and do another project. And then at some point, all those projects go up in value because I've met a lot of, older developers and the one common thing is they wish they had kept more stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's all well and good to say, I'd like to keep more stuff, but you actually have to be able to finance it. So that's pretty much the key to be able to keeping or holding properties is actually the finance, getting cheap finance and being able to replicate the finance over and over.
Yeah.
So that's really the point behind the property accumulator is literally that stage one, the buying. I've broken that down into 5 stages.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's good.
So there is an element of due diligence, but it's more about buying well and doing suburb selection based on certain growth criteria that I teach. So yeah, the 7 stages of property development. The first one is buying, and then the property accumulator course is all about the buying, getting the buying right, because you're not looking at doing an active strategy like development. It's purely buy, hold the property long term, and structure it right so that you can just keep buying, keep accumulating.
Exactly. Yeah. Buy and hold strategy, pretty much.
Yeah. And
what you find the right property that's you've got the rent paying for itself or close to it. Why not?
Yeah. So this strategy will only work in terms of unlimited serviceability. It'll only work if you're buying neutrally geared.
That's right.
Which means it's no cost to you. So
that's right.
If you're in negative geared territory, then it will reduce your income ultimately because you have to contribute towards it.
Yep.
So there is no magic bullet to that. So the strategies are legit. They're not like 5 minutes. Hey, here's a magic bullet, and you can go out and buy 100 properties. But yeah, there is a way to do it. It is expensive to set up. You will need an accountant on board, and you will need a finance broker that know what they're doing. But your consultants are only as good as you are, so you've got to be able to instruct them.
Yeah,
it's kind of like riding a racehorse, but if you're not a racehorse rider, or driving a fast car, if you're not a race car driver, you're not going to drive the car fast. The car can do 300 k's an hour, but you might only be able to get it up to 150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And Adam, I get a lot of clients myself that tell me, "Oh, is it really possible that you can actually get a positive geared property these days?" And I'm surprised that they're asking this question. There's many out there, and you would agree to this, yeah?
Look, it is harder, sure, because obviously interest rates have gone up. So you're looking at whatever the interest rate is. What's the interest rate? The bank rate for 5.5%.
5.5, some even 6.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't even look at it anymore. I just get the rate increase. I'm like, cool, whatever. But to be honest, it actually doesn't. It affects me as it does everybody else. But unlike mum and dad Australians, I'm not there having to worry about budgeting because I've got a rate rise kind of thing. So yes, the rates have gone up. I hit the bank up to get me more rate reductions, but I'm not stressing about an extra 1,000 or 2,000 a month per loan. If I told you my interest bill, you'd be like gobsmacked how much it is. But look, it's in the hundreds of thousands monthly. So $1,000 here and there per loan, and I'm like, it's a cost of doing business or owning property. But yeah, back to your question, there are positively geared properties. You just got to be a bit smarter now. But rewind back in history, there's been plenty of other times where you've got to be a bit smarter to buy positively geared properties. Yeah. So, and when interest rates come back down, if you can buy a property now that's positively geared, providing you're buying in a good location where the rent's not going to, come off, as in drop, in the next 12 months or 24 months when interest rates start coming back down, that property will be really positively geared. You just got to make sure you're not in an area where rents are also dropping with interest rates.
Yes. Just
in areas where they're flooding the market.
There are less of them, yeah. There are. I mean, look, you've got to be smart about it. And of course, buying off market, under market value, you can still pick them up. But, there's work to be done. And look, for the listeners out there, if you've got the time and the knowledge, of course, you can do it yourself. You can always hire someone else to do it for you. And, for a small fee, of course, and you're laughing. And just like any property, eventually, the rents go up while that interest, that price of that property still stays the same. So within, 3 years or so, you're well over, you're well positive in that property. So, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I teach, as part of the accumulator, you have to buy neutral geared property so that it pays for itself. But I don't like to compromise positively geared properties over something that's going to grow in value, because real wealth is generated from capital growth.
That's right.
It's the equity in the property. So, you can have a property that's $100 a week positively geared. So if it's $5,000 a year, that's all well and good. Let's just say it's a $500,000 property. If it's putting $5,000 a year in your back pocket, the stamp duty on $500,000, what's that? Like $25,000, if assuming you're not a first time buyer or whatever.
Yep.
So you got 5 years just to make up the stamp duty on the property.
Yeah.
Assuming you buy it at market value, of course. So, assuming you buy a $500,000 property at market value, you've got 5 years of positive geared just to make up the stamp duty. Like, isn't that, like, when you think about it like that, like, you, as a buyer, you would not buy a crappy located positively geared property if you knew that, because you're better off to actually have a negatively geared property and buy it $100,000 under market value.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the case, because on day one, you don't have to wait 5 years. On day one, you just made $75,000 minus stamp duty.
Yeah, exactly.
You got $75,000 in equity, and then
you're already ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can redraw that equity and go again. So I think there needs to be a balance between good location, or a location that's going to grow, and not just looking at the headline yield. Because I see a lot of people like, oh yeah, I just bought a positive geared property. It's whatever, 7% yield. And it's like, yeah, that's good, but where is it? It's in the middle of, bum nowhere.
Yeah. And you come back to you and say, I bought it for 700. Okay, what's it valued at? Oh, about 680.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
So, okay, you've got to wait a couple of years now for the equity to rise.
Yeah, well, that's it. And unless you've got a whole heap of cash that you can just keep buying properties with.
Yeah.
So, the whole thing with real estate accumulation is putting down the deposit each time. But if you're having to save the deposit every time, unless you're already starting off with a big lump of cash, it's going to take you a long time to build up a big portfolio. So, you don't only need to buy in high growth locations, but you need to still buy under market, because you need to get that extra, whatever, 10% equity or 5% equity from day one, so that you can just keep rolling into the next property.
And that's pretty much how wealth is created in a quicker way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially the passive way. If you're not developing, then you're ultimately relying on buying well and buying in high growth locations, but you're not going to see 10% capital growth necessarily in 6 months or 12 months like we've seen.
Yeah,
especially in certain parts. If you're seeing 10% capital growth, you've done really well.
Yeah,
and we will see that again shortly. But if you get 5% capital growth in 12 months, I think you'd be in one of the top performing suburbs in the last 6 months. And I'm in a couple of suburbs like that where they've probably gone 5% in the last 12 months or 10%, and they would be in the top performing suburbs in the country. But, you can't always get the location right. You can only make assumptions based on the information that you've got and a proven formula.
Yeah.
if you're putting down 20% deposits, you kind of need to get that 20% growth to redraw the equity to go again.
Oh, again, that's right. Awesome.
Yeah, whereas, say you're building a house as a development, if it takes you 12 months or 18 months to build a house, if you lock in 20%, it's kind of guaranteed in a way.
Yeah.
You're not relying on the market to grow. If the market grows by 10%, it's a bonus.
Yeah, that's it.
If you get me.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Adam, so if anyone wants to find out more information about your courses, where can they go?
Go to libertyblue.com.au or just search Liberty Blue or my name, Adam Pennisi. Liberty Blue is probably easier to spell.
So Adam Pennisi, I'll have that on the information on the notes. So Adam Pennisi is Pennisi.
Yes, that's it.
I'll add the links so people can find you easily there. Adam, thank you very much for coming on board. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we'll definitely catch up again soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Might see you in one of our programs.
Thanks for listening to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Domovsky. For valuable information on property investment and wealth creation for both first-time and seasoned investors, be sure to subscribe today. The Passive with Property podcast is brought to you by the Buyers Agency Australia.